Hey there, it's Shauna. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for May 7th. So this week I've titled, I Call It Confident, because when I was writing the forecast for this week, I kept thinking of this Beyonce song called Ego, and in it there's a certain section of the lyrics where she says, some call it arrogant, I call it confident. And I was really feeling like that's the vibe of this week, where we all get to explore what it feels like to feel confident, what it feels like to feel arrogant, where there is a gray, murky line in the middle, and what that looks like, what that shows up for you, or how that shows up for you this week. So I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So first things first, we have the last quarter moon on Monday. So this is the last quarter moon in the sign of Aquarius. And the last quarter moon is the point in the lunar cycle where there's a certain sense of getting closure on things, wrapping things up, and it's like this sense of pruning away the dead material, pruning away things that are ready to go, things that are ready to just like take the last few little steps to tie up something that needs to be taken care of, whether that is a conversation or a project, or maybe that's like cutting ties with something that is just like done, that would require more effort than you're ready to give right now. So I really notice how you're feeling this entire week, because it is the last quarter is the waning phase of the lunar cycle, so it is more about pulling your energy in and getting rest when you need it, and reflecting versus acting. So it's more of a time of reflection than going out and doing things. This being in the sign of Aquarius, Aquarius is definitely about innovation. It's about changing the structure. So I would look at this week where you can make changes in your life, in your schedule, in your day-to-day that helps you to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. The other thing that's happening this week is we have the Sun opposite Jupiter. So the Sun is in Taurus, we're in Taurus season, and then Jupiter is the sign of Scorpio. So whenever there is an opposition between 2 planets, that means that there's a polarization of energy. So we can think of this as how masculine and feminine are polar opposites, yin and yang. Anything where there's like this opposition, but then each of these energies are just embodying different sides of the same coin. And so in this case, we have the Sun, which is about personal identity and ego, and what it is that we all have to bring into the world, what it is that we have to shine and to share and to express. And then that is opposite Jupiter, which is about expansion. It's about growth, optimism, and expanding your knowledge, expanding your social circle, expanding your sense of self, really is what this is about. And so this is an interesting transit because Jupiter is known as like a lucky kind of influence, but it's still in opposition. So I would just notice where it is that you feel like things are growing and expanding for you, and how you navigate that. I think that's really the trick here is what are you saying yes to, what opportunities are opening up for you, and how do you stay open and able to take on new opportunities and new things, and learn new things, expand your sense of self, and at the same time temper that so that it's not too much. One thing that just popped into my head is the Temperance card in the Tarot. It's about like having 1 foot in the ethereal realm, 1 foot in the material realm, 1 foot in moving forward, and then 1 foot in your stability. So it's like this balancing act. And then the Sun opposite Jupiter is also definitely associated with confidence, being overly confident. On the problematic side, that can look like being arrogant, and I think that really depends on a person's temperament. If you already have like your confidence skill set like down, then I would watch for watch out that you don't overextend yourself. If you're working on self-confidence and that's kind of like a tender, vulnerable spot for you, this could be a really great time to lean into building your sense of self-confidence and maybe new opportunities to do that, to really strengthen your inner self. And then the last thing that's happening this week is we have Mercury square Mars. And so this is kind of like, when I was looking at this aspect, Mercury is the mind, it's the thought process, it's how we think about things. And then Mars is about action, it's drive, it's yang energy. So it's about like movement. And I was looking at this and I was like, oh, this has kind of like an agitated kind of feeling. Like it could be something like having a heated debate, or just even like being annoyed at a certain kind of situation. A square aspect, Mercury square Mars, the square itself denotes where there's kind of like something that needs, like there's a creative tension there. It's about tension. And so I would notice this is happening on Saturday, the Mercury square Mars. And Mercury's in the sign of Aries, Mars is in Capricorn, so it's a very like yang, lots of like dynamic energy. So I would notice how you're feeling closer to the weekend, and if there's something that's annoying you, or if you're feeling agitated, I would try and slow things down, and I would ask you to look at like how you can channel your energy too, because the thing with Mars is Mars wants action, Mars wants movement. So that could be like simple physical activity, like going for a walk, going for a run, doing something more dynamic like spin, or like dynamic vinyasa yoga versus the slow kind of yoga, anything that like gets your blood moving. It could be channeling your words into something that's very purposeful. But again, a lot of this energy, we have the sun with Jupiter, and then we have the Mars, the Mercury with Mars. These are things that initiate our sense of ego, our sense of pride, our sense of confidence. And so what I really want for you is to foster that sense of confidence from a place of having confidence within yourself, so that you're not necessarily trying to like prove yourself, but that it's creating this inner strength. So anytime that you have an engagement with someone where that feels, if that feels like you're getting heated or excited or animated, I think this week it's helpful to check in on where that's coming from. And if that is coming from a place to prove yourself, or if that's coming from a need to express. And I would definitely lean into connecting with yourself, so that you're coming from a place of expression versus having to like attack or prove your point or something like that. So I hope that makes sense. And again, this is not to say that you're going to feel agitated or annoyed or anything like that. You might feel amazing, I don't know. But that's like the full spectrum of potential that I was thinking of when I was looking at this week. So I have 3 tips for you to really make the most of this energy. Tip number 1 is to embrace your confidence. And so what I mean by that is to own your sense of confidence. Like that song, Ego by Beyonce, she says, some call it arrogant, I call it confidence. And so I think a certain element of this is about perspective. What some people see as being confident, others see that as being arrogant. And so I think it really comes down to you and what feels good to you. I think also this week, the phrase, fake it till you make it, was something that I thought of too, where it comes to confidence. Sometimes it's helpful to act as if you have the confidence to do the thing that you need to do, and then the confidence comes when you actually do the thing. So that's tip number 1, to embrace your confidence. Tip number 2 is to counterbalance this, is to check your ego. So whenever you're doing anything this week, I want you to really notice, again, like, where are your actions coming from? Is it coming because you want to do something and you're excited about it? Or is it coming from a place of like expectation or having to prove yourself to someone else? I think that's really where it comes into checking the ego. We have a lot of energy around the ego with the sun and Mars involved this week. So I think that can be helpful to always be curious about what your motive is. So that's tip number 2, to check your ego. And then tip number 3 is to tie up loose ends this week. And so this goes along with the lunar cycle that I talked about. We're in the waning phase. And what I want for you this week is to be prepared for the new moon next week. So we'll have a new moon next week in the sign of Taurus. But until we get there, this week is definitely a time of winding things down and clearing out and making space. So that's tip number 3, is to tie up loose ends and definitely make space for the new next week. That being said, those are your tips, and then I have, we'll pull a little animal card for extra guidance. So I haven't, like always, I haven't picked this in advance. We'll pick it together, and then this is just like an extra little animal symbol for the week. And this is from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. And I was wondering too, I'm curious, because I know a lot of you that watch also enjoy oracle cards, and so I've been looking for a different kind of animal deck. So if there's one that you like, let me know. I'm always curious to hear what other people are using. Okay. So I always give it a good shuffle. Ooh, I pulled the whale. So this is another one that I remember pulling a little while ago, I think also on a Neo-Feminine TV episode. So as always, I want you to notice what the whale makes you think of. What I think is really interesting, because I remember when I pulled this card a while ago, I looked up whales, and whales, they have, especially like this one, this is a humpback whale. They have these songs that they make that is really interesting, these sounds that they make underneath the water, and they're kind of like the way that the whales communicate together, and so it's like, it sounds like clicks and things like that. And scientists have studied the sounds, and it's never like exactly the same. They call them songs because they're always a little bit different, and they change over the seasons, and it's different from one whale to the other. And so I think that's really interesting. Whales are also associated with the deep wisdom of the universe, and I love that they make these songs and these sounds, because that always reminds me of how it is that we connect with divine guidance from our inner selves, and from that which is greater than you, whether you call that God or the creator, your spiritual guidance team, your higher self, etc. So I feel like this is asking this week to really connect with that deeper part of yourself, in a way even to go beyond the ego, and that maybe that's where the confidence really resides. So that's what that makes me think of. I'm curious what comes to you when you think of that card. Yeah. So that is your horoscope for the week. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend who you think would enjoy it as well. And then if you want to get more of me and find more inspiration and guidance, I will be recording the next Neo-Feminine TV live on YouTube. That's this Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And this coming week, we're going to be talking about emotional connection, basically like emotional acceptance as a spiritual practice, and how when you actually work with your emotional sense and what it is that you're feeling in the moment, instead of trying to change it or manipulate it, that can actually create much more freedom and fulfillment and satisfaction, and that can actually just be a spiritual practice in itself. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. That's something that I'm very passionate to talk about. So you can join us on YouTube then, and then you can also follow me on Instagram. Last week I posted by day what the moon sign is for every single day during the week, so I'll do that again this week, because I think you enjoyed that. So I'll do that. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook under Neo-Feminine Astrology. And then if you are interested in working with me, I do coaching and counseling sessions with astrology. You can find more information on how to contact me under neofemininetv.fireside.fm, and I'll have links below for all of this stuff too. So until next week, I'm wishing you an amazing week, sending lots of love, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.